Hey folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris, and here's a little foreshadowing of a news story which you'll hear endless whining and belly aching about. What am I talking about? Well, as the illegitimate presidency of Joe Biden is set to commence within mere hours, how many Republicans will have the courage to boycott the inauguration? Members of Congress I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. When Donald Trump won and the bizarre Hillary Clinton refused to accept the fact that despite her horrific candidacy and her lame campaign, she actually lost to this former reality star and New York real estate magnate. She still refused to accept it, and even yesterday was talking nonsensically about Donald Trump telephone records, Putin on the 6th of January. Delusional doesn't begin to describe the inability of Hillary Clinton to accept her legitimate electoral defeat in 2016. Yet because of Hillary Clinton and the deep swamp creature that she was from the Clinton administration and her carpetbagger days as a fake senator from New York, not even a resident of New York, never came from there. Despite all that, she had a large number of acolytes and loyal supplicants and sycophants in Congress. 68 members of Congress, including the vile Maxine Waters, refused to attend President Donald Trump's inauguration in January of 2017. The news heralded that. They thought that was a wonderful thing because, my goodness, Donald Trump won. We can't have that. Even after you gave him over $1 billion of free advertising, you twits. So how many Republicans will have the moral courage to do the right thing? We know that 4 states broke their own election laws, thereby making this an illegitimate election. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada all broke their laws. Now, people can censor that all they want, and they can deny it all they want, but the law is quite clear. Here in Pennsylvania, the executive branch announced before the election, in order to save the failing, flagging candidacy of Joe Biden, they announced that they would accept ballots 10 days after the election. That's a violation of law. They announced that they would accept ballots where the signature did not match that of the registered voter. Another violation of the law. And they also announced that they would accept ballots without a postmark. Why does a postmark matter? Because it's part of a chain of custody. The ballot is mailed through the Postal Service, arrives at someone's house. It's a crime to enter someone's mailbox and take their mail. You collect your ballot, you fill it out, you put it back in the mailbox, and it's returned with a postmark, thereby having a chain of custody. Now, that's hardly a perfect system, but it is the best system that exists, and it was there on purpose. All 3 of these are violations of Pennsylvania election law, specifically Act 77 from October of 2019, the law that allowed for this ludicrous mail-in balloting situation in the first place. But the mail-in balloting wasn't enough for the election officials and the executive branch here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So they violated the law. They announced it publicly, and thereby encouraging fraud. 4 counties and the Republican Party took them to court, sued the state because these counties didn't have the resources to count ballots for 10 days after the election. No one's paying for those people to sit around and count ballots and wait for ballots to come in. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the captured Supreme Court, not only upheld the illegality and criminal actions of the executive branch, but also weighed in with their own. And said instead of 10 days, you can have 3 days to take ballots after the election. All violations of law. Never mind all the shenanigans that took place on the 3rd of November. We won't even get into that. But that's just one example of one of 4 states that clearly, openly violated their own laws. So the illegitimate presidency of Joe Biden will start. Unlike Democrats who had no legitimate reason to complain and to act like impetulant, pathetic, whiny little children and not show up for Donald Trump's inauguration, people like Maxine Waters, Representative Steve Cohen of Tennessee, you know, that vile swamp creature who questioned the loyalty of the National Guard. Yikes. Folks, you've heard it here first. You've heard it here first. We will see endless stories about the pathetic, sad, and unrepentant Trump supporters and members of Congress who failed to come to Joe Biden's inauguration, if any of them actually have the moral courage. I suspect none of them have the moral courage to stand up. They all make excuses. This is part of the democratic system. This is what we do. That's all BS. It's all nonsense. If the repulsive, strangely uber wealthy, despite living in incredibly poor congressional district, Maxine Waters, with multiple houses, having only ever served in government except for a brief period doing something in her youth 18 decades ago, if she can skip Donald Trump's inauguration because she doesn't like him, well, then it's certainly perfectly okay for members of the House of Representatives and the Senate to skip Joe Biden's illegitimate inauguration over a disputed election. There's at least a legitimate basis for that. Will we see any? Not going to hold my breath. But 68 members of the Democratic caucus failed to go to Donald Trump's inauguration. How many Republicans will not show up on the 20th of January, 2021? Well, folks, it's rules for you and rules for them. And you see it once again. However, we the people have the final say. And they can lie and they can obfuscate and they can make up all the stories they want while they control the universities, they control the media, they control big tech. They don't control Americans. They try with the scamdemic, with the fraudulent, fruitless, stupid actions intended to destroy our economy and the bonds of social cohesion in this society. They can lie about systemic racism while supporting and endorsing systemic racism in the form of affirmative action. They can distort the history of this country. But Americans, many, know better. And you can't put 150 million people in labor camps. They'll try. They'll try. Their 21st century labor camps will be censorship and exclusion, and they'll use the power of the state illegitimately violating the Constitution on a daily basis. The very first criminal act of the Joe Biden administration will take place on the 20th of January. You watch and see what fraudulent executive orders he signs on the 20th of January. And thereby begins the illegitimate presidency becomes the fraudulent presidency. Well, folks, feel free to become a subscriber. Smash the subscription button right down there. And if you don't mind, give us a like. Likes drive viewership. Even in the face of censorship, it does drive viewership. Thanks a lot, folks. How many Republicans won't show up? Nobody reporting on that. But boy, we had thousands of stories about all the Democrats and their rage and not showing up for Donald Trump's inauguration. When they do talk about the Republicans don't show up, it'll all be about sour grapes, not legitimate concerns about the legitimacy of a Biden presidency. Well, it's going to be a bumpy ride, folks. Buckle up. Hang in there.